Hey everyone, and welcome back. It's time for another deep dive, and today we're going to be looking into a story that really hits on some big issues.
Hmm.
Retaliation, religious freedom, and this one man's fight to make his voice heard.
Mm.
We're talking about David Vogel. He's a former CEO. Now he mentors people in the solar energy field, and get this, he's an ordained pastor too.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty impressive, right? So Vogel's been sharing his experiences on LinkedIn, and let me tell you, it's quite a story.
So what's the story? What happened?
Well, it all started when Vogel served time for a crime that wasn't actually even a crime until after he was convicted.
Wait, what? How is that even possible?
I know, right? It's crazy. But it gets even crazier since he's been released. Vogel's been locked in this battle with a Bureau of Prisons official named Patrick McFarland.
McFarland. Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going.
The Vogel claims this McFarland guy is targeting him for exercising his First Amendment rights. And this is where it gets really interesting because it sounds eerily similar to what allegedly happened with Michael Cohen, Trump's former lawyer.
Oh, wow. The Michael Cohen case. Yeah, that's right. McFarland was involved in that too. Cohen was put in solitary confinement for speaking out against Trump.
Exactly. And those conditions were absolutely brutal. We're talking 23 and a half hours a day in a tiny cell with temperatures often soaring over 100 degrees.
I remember reading about that. It was awful. Cohen later said he suffered from headaches, anxiety, breathing difficulties. It was clearly designed to break him.
It's terrifying to think about. And now Vogel's claiming he's facing similar treatment from the same guy. For the past 8 months, he's been dealing with all these bureaucratic roadblocks, all because he wanted to use his right to free speech.
It does sound like someone's trying to keep him quiet.
Right. And here's the kicker. Vogel was actually released back in 2020 under similar conditions to Cohen, with the understanding that rehabilitation was the goal.
That makes you wonder, is McFarland really just enforcing rules here, or is there something more going on, like a personal vendetta?
And hold on, because it gets even wilder. McFarland recently ordered Vogel to stop calling himself pastor.
What? But he's a legally ordained minister right now.
Exactly. It just seems ridiculous. Like, come on. The guy's just trying to live his life.
I'm curious about the legal basis for that order. It seems like McFarland is using a program statement meant for inmates who are actually inside prison walls.
Right. But Vogel is in home confinement. He's not locked up in the traditional sense.
So is this really a legitimate security concern? Or is McFarland targeting Vogel's faith here?
It definitely feels like he's overstepping his authority, especially when you consider what happened with Vogel's medication.
What happened with his medication?
Vogel's been on medication for years to manage chronic pain. It's a doctor's prescription. And McFarland just prohibited it.
Seriously, that's messed up. He
Yeah.
just completely disregarded a doctor's orders.
It's like he doesn't care about Vogel's health at all.
Wow. This is really troubling. It seems like there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many questions that need answers, and we're going to try to get to the bottom of them in this deep dive.
I'm ready. Let's do it. It's just unbelievable to think someone can be denied medical care like that, just taken away.
I know. It's
Ugh.
it's really concerning. It makes you think about the chilling effect this could have on free speech.
Right. Absolutely. If you know that speaking your mind could lead to this kind of treatment,
Mhm.
wouldn't you hesitate before saying anything?
Yeah, for sure. It's scary to think about. And if someone like Vogel, with his background and resources, can be targeted like this, imagine what could happen to people who are even more vulnerable.
Exactly. It's a really unsettling thought. And the fact that this might be the same person responsible for what Michael Cohen went through,
Yeah.
that makes it even more disturbing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We can't forget about what happened to Cohen. It's crucial to remember those details.
Right. So let's remind everyone about what Cohen experienced, just to paint a clear picture.
Yeah, please do.
So imagine this. You're locked in solitary confinement for 16 days straight, no human contact, the temperatures are extreme, and there's this constant fluorescent lighting just buzzing overhead. The psychological impact alone would be unimaginable.
It's like a nightmare scenario, something out of a dystopian novel.
Yeah, it's a terrifying reality check. These things can happen even in a country like ours, within institutions that are supposed to uphold the law.
It's a stark reminder that we can't take our freedoms for granted. So where do we go from here? What steps can we take to prevent this from happening again?
Well, I think Vogel's plea for help is a good starting point. We need to amplify his story, get it in front of the right people, those who can investigate these allegations.
You're talking about journalists, legal experts, anyone who can shed light on what's happening here.
Exactly. And that's where our listeners come in.
That's right. This is where everyone listening can make a real difference. Share this story. Spread the word on social media. Contact your elected officials. We need to build a wave of support for Vogel and demand accountability from the Bureau of Prisons.
This isn't just about one man's suffering. This is about fundamental principles. Fairness, justice, protecting basic human rights. If we let this slide, if we don't act, what does that say about us? What kind of message does that send?
This whole thing, it's a complete mess. And when you look at it alongside what happened with Michael Cohen, it paints a pretty disturbing picture.
Yeah, it really does. And it's especially concerning the impact this could have on others who might be thinking about speaking out.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
if you know that raising your voice could result in this kind of treatment,
Yeah.
who wouldn't hesitate?
It's a very real concern. It could create a chilling effect on free speech. People might be too afraid to speak up about injustices for fear of retaliation.
And think about it. If someone like Vogel, with all his resources and connections, can be targeted like this, what hope is there for people who are even more vulnerable, those who don't have the same platform or support system?
It's a chilling thought, and it highlights the importance of bringing these stories to light. We can't let people be silenced. We have to fight back against these kinds of abuses.
So how do we do that? What are the concrete steps we can take to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Well, I think Vogel's call for help is the first step. We need to amplify his story. Make sure it reaches a wider audience. Get it in front of people who have the power to investigate and hold those responsible accountable.
Right. We need to get journalists involved, legal experts, anyone who can shed light on this situation and demand justice.
Exactly. And that's where our listeners come in. This is where you can really make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single person listening has the power to help. Share this story. Tell your friends. Talk about it on social media. Contact your elected officials. Let's build a massive wave of support for Vogel and show the Bureau of Prisons that we won't tolerate this kind of behavior.
It's time to hold them accountable for their actions.
This is about more than just Vogel. It's about protecting everyone's rights, ensuring that everyone has a voice, and that no one is silenced for speaking out against injustice.
It's about upholding the principles of fairness and justice. That's what's at stake here.
And it's a reminder that we can't take our freedoms for granted. We have to constantly be vigilant, and we have to be willing to speak up when we see something wrong.
Absolutely. Silence is complicity. We have to be the voice for those who are being silenced. We have to fight for a better, more just world.
And on that note, I want to thank you all for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a tough story to tell, but it's an important one, and we hope it sparks some important conversations.
And hopefully some action, too.
Exactly. Remember David Vogel's story, and let's all work together to ensure that justice prevails.